Welcome back. It's all English again. My guest now, Sergio Gargelli from Italy. You're the national team coach for Finnish men's futsal team.
Yes.
You've been living around 1 year already in Finland.
Yes.
Have you settled down?
Yes, sure. It's quite easy in the country and it's very good to live in Finland.
Your passion is futsal, but how much do you follow the World Cup that is going on?
I have followed some matches. Also, I have lived in Qatar, so I was curious to see how the building of the stadium was. I have followed some matches. I'm a little bit sad because Italy is not taking part, but maybe we deserve not to be there.
Yeah, in 4 years there's another World Cup.
Yeah.
Another chance. You've been a head coach for 4 different countries. You have lived in 6 different countries. We can really say that you're an experienced football coach, a futsal coach.
Experience is something that we gain day by day, and I think also updating is something very important for coaches. If we think one day we know everything, is the day that we have to think to retire. So every time a new challenge, and this is what I like.
What is your subject today?
Today I want to talk about how futsal is important for football. Especially I will analyze a little bit the phase of formation and some link to the finishing phase. This is what I want to talk about.
Okay, I'm looking forward. Stage is all yours.
Thank you. Well, I am a futsal coach, but I have been a football player, and in Italy we say the first love could be never forgot. So I want to talk about the relationship between these 2 brothers, futsal and football. They are both belong to the same family, and since I started to be futsal coach, I watched the football game with different eyes, watching the micro situation that happen in single situation instead of the full court. And there is something here, there is in some photos, there are 11 players, are the most expensive transfer market in football, different nationality and different position in the field. But if you see the players with the green logo on the face, all they had the past in futsal. This I think means something if players from different nationality, Brazil, France, Portugal, Argentina, Belgium, they had the past in futsal. Means that these have given them something in their evolution as players that helped them to become the players that they are now. And because of that, let's try to go a little bit in deep why I believe that is important, and here is demonstrated that 8 of the most expensive players in the world are a past in futsal. I believe that here we see Neymar is his past in futsal. We see that I have the full belief that the best way to develop football players is to develop the micro situation. The micro situation, because it's easier when you pass from few time for thinking to more time for thinking, few time for executing to more time for executing, to defender nearer to defender farther, a smaller goal to a bigger goal. Everything become easier. You just need to be acquainted to a different kind of ball and to the rule of offside. So to me, a good progression in the development of a football player should be futsal until 10 years old, the double activity until 14 years old, and then like 2 brothers that choose 2 different paths for their future, develop a futsal side or a football side. But the fact that the double activity for me in this age, especially from 10 to 14 years old, to me is a really important step for the development of the football players. And related to this, there is something very important in the countries where futsal youth competition are very developed. There is, and this I'm talking about Brazil, Argentina, Spain and Portugal, there is big possibility to see the talent come out, because as I told you, the small spaces stimulate the quick thinking, the quick mental switch, defense to attack, and also the creativity and the speed of the technical gesture. And this is really important in the modern football also because the useful space of the player become always lower and lower. In football, if we think about relationship of space and number of players, to have the same condition that in futsal should be 88 players versus 88. Then, of course, this is not real because the useful space then is different because there is the offside rule. So there are many situations, the high pressure on the ball that becomes these two brothers very similar in technical and tactical situation. Let me talk a little bit about Brazil. Brazil is the bigger export of players in the world, and there is this book that is called The Talent Code, where Daniel Coyle and Simon Clifford went to analyze in this book the talent in general, from the talent in music, in art, and why talent is focused in certain areas, in certain historical period. And they went to analyze why Brazil is the biggest exporter of player in the world. And they discovered that futsal is the secret weapon of Brazilian. Why this? Because there is a study of the University of São Paulo in that the Professor Miranda that tell that in futsal usually in a normal, compare a futsal training to a normal training in football, kids are more involved and the touch of the ball is 6 times more every minute in every minute of training. What does it mean? This that more intense practice brings to a faster improvement. So the useful time that they have in a practice in futsal is higher than in football, and also this more participation of the kids bring them more fun and more motivation, and this easier to understand for everyone that what we like, what we are involved in more, we have more possibility to give us more motivation and fast improvement. Today, and I go in specific, I would like to talk about an aspect that to me very important. I forgot to tell something in one slide before to go this, that in futsal, players fundamentally have 4 passes include the goalkeeper, so 4 optional passes. If we consider that they have, in every minute of training, they have 6 times more contact of the ball, it means also that the technical tactical gesture and the number of decision making will be 6 times more in every minute of training compared to the football in general. And this is very important. It's very important to develop what is to me the most difficult phase of the game, that is the finishing phase. Why finishing phase is the most difficult of the game? Because suddenly we found an area of the field where there are defenders that are very closer, there is few spaces, there are a lot of numbers of players, and where it's very important for the players to have a very quick decision making to choose the best option and often leave space to creativity. This image is from the last World Cup in Russia, is Mexico versus Brazil, and we can see that there are 14 players in a space that is shorter and smaller than a futsal court. So this high density require the players develop some aspects that usually are not so common or not worked in so much detail in futsal. So let's see how in futsal we solve the problem of finishing, especially combining 2 players. In football, fundamentally, there are not so many options are not so developed in details, the combination between 2 players. In futsal, we have a lot of kind of combination developed in the combination between 2 players. And if we analyze the percentage of goal in futsal, the 46% of goals comes, as you see in the slide, by combination between 2 players. Now I would like to show some videos about that and see how we can use this combination in futsal, which are this combination in futsal, and how we can adapt and transport them to the bigger field with success. So I will start, for example, from how to hide the 1-2, because you know everyone which is the movement of 1-2 in general. Let's see how we can hide the 1-2 that is more important in futsal, because you must understand that futsal in general is lack of space and lack of time. So this situation in futsal between these two players, now you can see number 5 and the other players in the side here, they try to hide a situation of 1-2. You can see number 5 make a feint to hide his intention to play a 1-2, and then he goes to play this 1-2. This is the same situation in football, and is a kind of movement that can be transferred in an area that is the border of penalty area, or let's say in the small side of the penalty area. Here we can see Messi with a teammate. Here Messi ran, suddenly he stopped, changed direction, create a space between him and the defender that allow him to play in security this 1-2 and create a big chances of goal for Barcelona. This is something that we see very few times in football, this hiding the intention of the 1-2, and with these sudden breaks and separate from the opponent, give the possibility to play this combination easily. This we have seen starting from center to side. Now we can see the opposite, starting from side to center, with the ball in this case is in the side. Here you can see the players go, stop, go again, and then he goes to play a winning situation of 1-2. When we talked before analyzing the micro situation in the big picture, for a micro situation, for example, I intend, for example, this 2-2 in the side. Often when I watch football match, I ask myself how in futsal we could solve this problem. We have a space, we have 2 players, 2 defenders, which are the combination that we could have and could export in big field to break the defense. Here we can see was the match, if I don't mistake, of last Euro Cup between Spain and Croatia. And here you can see this 1-2 is exactly the same that in futsal, situation where with the feint they hide the intentional 1-2, they separate from defender, they exploit the space at the back of the defender to offer a winning pass for a goal, I think, of 3-2 or 4-2 in the extra time of the match. This is one situation. I want to show another movement that is the movement of overlap, that is quite, you know well, in football, but in futsal we have different overlap. In football you use especially the vertical overlap between ala, let's say, winger and fullback usually. In futsal we use also the horizontal overlap. Here you can see these 2 players, number 13 and number, I think, 10. There is an horizontal overlap. In this case, there is the overlap is a movement that always creates doubts in the defender, fall or change or what to do. Here there is a doubt between defender, the attacker gain and advantages in space and time that arrive to lead a clear chances of goal. Here another situation, driving towards the center, overlap, the defender has a slow reaction, and there is an unbalance in defense that lead to, in this Argentina versus Spain match, that lead to another chance. Here you can see again the movement, driving for the center, overlap, slow reaction of the defense. In this case the overlap lead to a connection with pivot. Pivot is the striker in futsal, and here the pivot has the possibility to turn and score. Here you can see again the movement and how this horizontal overlap create problem. Here another situation, always of horizontal overlap. You can see now his number 2 make this movement of feinting the pass for the overlap, in any case create another disadjusting defense for the space of shooting. You have to consider that here a futsal court is 20 meters, 40 meters, so the half court is, this line is at 20 meters from the goal line, so the shooting is approximately 18 meters, so you can understand how this movement can be very effective at the border of football penalty area. So here we can see Brazil versus Mexico. You can see this movement between Neymar and William. Neymar is this player and William is this one. You can see how Neymar lead the ball, drive the ball towards the center, creating a strong side of the defense and the weak side of defense. And we can see how he attract on himself a lot of defender and how he create a space here to be exploited by William and other players with a futsal pass that pass at the back to exploit the space. And you can see how Neymar here is going to attack the second post to go to close this combination between two players and score the goal for Brazil. I can show again the movement in order you understand the combination. Here Neymar drive the ball, William pass at the back, and then this is come from a concept in futsal. It's nothing pre-built. This is created by a reading of the space, or better, creation of space, reading of space, and exploitation of space. Here you can see another situation between Cesc and Messi. Cesc with the ball, sole pass for Messi, another movement of overlap horizontal, and then Messi exploit this disadvantage in the defense at the border, this disadvantage of the defense border of penalty area to score a great goal. But the movement, the combination is horizontal overlap. Let's go forward to another combination that is the parabolic entrance. The parabolic entrance is a curve movement that also to exploit the blind side of the defense. So here is the movement, is this one. The players appear, usually the defender is focused on the ball and on his direct opponent, and an entrance, curve entrance in this space, usually to exploit, coming from the blind side of defense to exploit this space, is a movement very effective in football, in futsal, but can be very effective in football too. Here we can see the movement, the appearance, and a chance of goal. Here again you can see the movement, curving, entering this space. You can see how the defender is focusing on the ball, so gain the time here and score an amazing goal. But the movement can between the synchronization between these two players that exploit a space in a different way. Here you can see the export of this in the big field. You can see how Messi start from the blind side of this defender and to go to exploit the space here. Synchronization of him and Iniesta, exploit the space, and then of course the finishing is the easiest part in this attack, because the difficult part was to read the situation and coordinate with Iniesta in this case and exploit the time. This is another example. Another situation of two players play combination is the combination of with pivot in futsal. Pivot is the striker in futsal, and how is important having a striker back to goal and synchronize and exploit the space. In futsal, we have also roles and position, and here I show a little bit here the player that usually consider this is an attack 3-1. This is the cierre, the player is in the center. These are the two ala or winger, and this is the pivot, the striker. So here we can see a combination between cierre and pivot, and we can see how is important for this then going to having a back pass for shooting. Here another situation. Cierre, the two wingers, and the pivot. The pivot make a feint, and then the cierre go to finish. Here we can see the same structure in football. Pivot, winger, other winger, and cierre. Combination between cierre and pivot. Entrance, in this case, the pivot decide to turn and shoot. This is a micro situation with the same concept. Here we can see Manchester City, again, another situation. Winger, cierre, and pivot. Ball inside and go to receive the pass back for scoring. The other combination with pivot can be from the ala, not from the cierre that connect with pivot, but from the ala. So ala in this case with pivot, the pivot separate from the defender, and then the defender in this case was ready to make a cover to balance this situation 1v1, the pivot separate, the pass line is open, and the pivot turns and go to score. Here, another combination, we see how important the ala engage the defender, connect with pivot, and then go to receive the pass back for a shooting, a dangerous shooting. Let's see this in football. This is a match between, I think, Barcelona and Elche of beginning of this season. Again, our microsystem of futsal, ala, cierre, and pivot, and we can see the combination of ala with Memphis Depay and how Memphis Depay turn and score. And here we can see a lot of components of futsal, starting from the control with soul of Memphis Depay, and we can see how is poor the quality of the defender, that he don't know how to use the body, something that in futsal we teach very clear. If you give the body contact here to the attacker use the body of the defender like the hinge of the door to turn very easy. And here we can see how Depay make joke of the defense.
Great examples. Watching those combinations between two players, just having my own thoughts here. How has the development been last years between two players? So if I now run tapes back 10 years from this moment, do I see the same things? Or what are the biggest developments between two strikers in futsal, in those combinations? Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand the question. I think that fundamentally the combinations are the same. The game in futsal, there have been changing in the rules, and the game became more physical, with more pressing on the ball and more contact. But this kind of combination was already many years ago. It became more difficult because the pressure of the ball is increased too much. So that's why we developed other concepts like the feint, like to hide more the intentions, but the movement are the same.
Because I think for me, if you think the football, the evolution has been that the offensive part has always come up with something new, and then the defensive part has catch up with it. And then again, offensive-wise, new things have been developed, came up with, and then defensive have already, get up. Let's say the possession football in the last decade, now we see more and more teams being really productive, stopping that possession becoming goal-scoring chances. So just watching futsal, again, that development is not there as it is in football.
Yes, there has been development. There has been more integration between the systems. For example, the first system in futsal was the 2-2, very static system. Now we use of the 2-2 system only as recourse, but fundamentally there was the evolution to the 3-1, then to the evolution of 4-0, then combining 3-1, 4-0, transforming in some situation of 2-2, some transforming in 1-3. But the movement, fundamentally, the combination between two players are fundamentally the same. Always the game became faster in some situations, faster and faster.
Would you say now, as a national team coach for Finnish futsal team, that's the essence of your attacking game, that combination between two players? Or is it more the team effort?
Is, I think, more the team effort, and I think where Finland can grow up a lot is in this basic situation.
Okay.
Fundamental offensive combination, fundamental offensive tactic, individual and combination between players. Because it's like if you want to write a good book, you need to know the grammar, you need to know the alphabet, and you need to know as many words as you can. Then you can decide to write a book, a romance, a poetry, whatever you want. But if you lack in quality in the base, it's difficult to have a good product in the end. And I think this part is where Finnish futsal, but also I believe Finnish football can grow up a lot. And this, let me tell you something, when I saw kids, I have worked in different countries, when I saw kids in Finland are very physically very well structured, and even if they are tall and they have a good physical structure, they have good coordination. So imagine how, if they improve on these individual skills, how which huge step forward they can do in football.
Yeah. My personal view in Finnish football, that for decades we've been thinking that could we have more players which are technically gifted, which are fast, which might have size, because we only have always players which have, let's say, 2 out of those 3 things. But let's see. Okay, please continue.
As I told you here, let's go back. This is another situation of 3-1. We can see here, for example, our system again. Ala cierre, ala pivot, Neymar combine, and then go to receive the pass back. In this case, the defense can adjust, but you can understand the utility of this movement at the border of penalty area. Here we can see Japan League, Mitoma, our microsystem again, put the ball to pivot, feint, and get to receive the 1-2. Here we can see how, for example, the defender, in this case, turn the back to the opponent and watch the ball and don't know where the opponent is going, so it's very easy for Mitoma, even without feint, gain the position for going for shooting. The combination of pivot, there are some tactical details that I want to show. One is that when the pivot receive, always the players can be one entrance, one player support, or 2 player support. In this case, one support and go to overlap. And the overlap can be vertical or diagonal. In this case, we see vertical overlap, pass to pivot, and overlap. And here you can see in slow how the pivot keep the ball, how the defense is slow to react. And here we can see another example of diagonal overlap. You see it is a diagonal pass. Always when we say diagonal, we consider diagonal to the sideline of the field. Overlap, and then finishing with a pass, a shoot to second post. Here the same. Diagonal entrance, diagonal overlap. In this case, the pivot exploit this defense that try to defend man-to-man. They hit each other, and the pivot have possibility to turn and score. Here we can see diagonal overlap in football. Here is a situation of Atalanta, attacking Atalanta, Italian Serie A. Here we can see the Colombian striker, that Muriel, that he played this movement of overlap combination between 2 players with Malinowski, and then how the defender remained passive to this situation on the ball, and how this movement create good chances of score. This is another movement with the Bayern Munich of Guardiola, in a situation of corner that took an old corner, a very old corner strategy from futsal. Same situation, 2 wingers or ala, cierre and pivot, and when pivot receive, there is double entrance, double overlap. Here I show you in slow, 2 entrance of 2 players, and here the defenders remain stopped, and how the players can go to score. This is a movement very, very common and very, very old movement in futsal. Here we can see an example, for example, here where this player is the striker that enter, the cierre, the ala that support, and the other ala go to close on the second post. Here in this case the shoot is direct. Here we can see another situation of this corner. Pass to pivot, double entrance, and finishing to second post. Is exactly the same movement. What are the other important features in pivot? For me, it's very important the use of the sole in the control of the ball. Why? Because allow to keep the defender farther and to protect better the ball. Here you can see Pirtiocchi of pivot of ACA of Finnish Futsal League, how he protect the ball. Players that arrive for shooting and then a deflection and finishing. But it's very important here you can see the pivot, how use the body and the sole to protect the ball, and here also use a feint to turn in a side and to unbalance the defender and then go for shooting. Movement that we can see also in football, very important, here is Levante, how the striker control the ball with the sole and support players who go to finalize. It allows to a better protection of the ball. And then Neymar, that is a classic futsal player in the field, in the big field, how he used the sole here, then also other skills, but the control of sole allows him to first make this good protection of the ball. And here you can see the other movement of Neymar, here I show in slow motion, like the one that we see in pivot, the control with feint to trick the defender. He feints to go in a side and then he goes in the other. We can see again the movement, how he used the sole, and you can see many times this movement to Neymar to turn. I call this movement 1v1 back to goal, and this a kind of technical things that can help also in football a lot. The last point to me, the very important is when we connect to pivot, is important that the passer to pivot or another player gain advantage on his direct defender to go to shoot, to go to support the pivot. How to gain advantage? The use of the feint or the proximity. The proximity means go to nearer to the opponent, pass the ball, and from a change of speed, you gain advantage on the opponent. In this case, you can see the feint, gain advantage and going for shooting. You see how this movement, like rabbit, give the possibility to trick the defender. Here we can see another situation, how the movement is done to support the pivot. This comes naturally in futsal because there is no space, and make the feint is a must. Same situation in football. Manchester City, Gundogan, play pivot, and for proximity, for near distance, he gained advantage from his direct defender and exploit the space between these two defensive lines. So, and here, the movement of Messi, play with Iniesta, and we appreciate very well the movement of feint, and we can see how the defender go very secure to defense the 1-2. Instead, Messi with his feint, you can see how he created distance from his defender, how he separates from the defensive line, and how he has the possibility to gain the space for shooting. You can see the first movement, and which is the criteria, for example, for this movement in futsal. Always the shooter try to search to go to shoot with his dominant foot after the combination with pivot. So we can see Messi in this case, that is a left-footed dominant player, how the first movement is on the right, and then he changed direction to going for shoot with the left-footed. These micro details, to me, can be very effective in individual offensive tactic to create better and improve football players, both in the formation age but also in adult age, can improve. Here we can see Sassuolo, in this case Locatelli, number 75. After he played to pivot, we can see how his run is straight. Even if the defender is not watching him, he's not taking advantage from this situation, how his run is straight and how is ineffective his movement, and the defense can defend this situation. Other movements that we have is the parallel. The parallel is a kind of movement in futsal, very, very common from the history of futsal, and in football is very good to be used in the short side of the penalty area. In football is a movement that Guardiola has defined undefendable movement, because we go to exploit one area that is behind the defense line, so there is the offside that help to use this space, and is undefendable if done at right time. Here we can see the two players that play parallel, and this one after a feint go to receive a pass parallel, that's why the name parallel, to the sideline of the field. And after this there are possibility to finish or integrate again with the passer. In futsal we have many different kind of parallels depending on the situation. Here we can see the classical one, this is Finnish Futsal League, how they play, pass the ball, change speed and direction, go to receive a parallel pass and go to shoot. Here parallel that we call direct, because the players move without any feint straight to the parallel to receive a pass and finish. The same situation, number 24, pass, attack the space, go to receive a parallel pass and go to shoot a second post. Here we can see many applications in football of this. This is Juventus. And here we can see how they attack hand in goal. The parallel can be direct or can be slow vertical run and then sudden change speed and direction. Here you can see slow vertical run, sudden change of direction and finishing. This movement of feint to gain advantage on the direct opponent. Here we can see Iniesta, slow vertical run, and then change speed and go to exploit the space for the parallel. Iniesta was one of the specialists of parallel, but it's very common to see the movement in many teams. Here you can see again vertical run, change speed, attack the space and score. Here another one, slowly approach towards the ball and then change direction and go to score. Here again, slowly approaching Manchester City, big space to be exploited with a parallel pass and then finishing. From here came the goal. Guardiola is one of the big users of this movement.
We have one question.
Yes.
The audience. All right, a little bit longer.
Okay.
Henry asks a great question. In football, we talk a lot about passing to the upper foot, so that the team is able to advance in the field.
Okay.
On the other hand, in futsal, the pass comes very often to the lower foot, especially passing to pivot, playing the ball. Could we maybe utilize more the futsal style of passing and first touch in football?
To me, yes, we can use. We can use now. Today I choose an argument that is this one combination between two players. But for example, this the concept of the third players in the vertical combination in a combination between A and B, use the player C to connect A and B. This is something that also in futsal we have a very tactical, more variation and extension of concept. So the fact to play vertical, this vertical possession, to exploit the space between the lines, using the extension of the concept of the third player, for me is the answer to this question.
Yeah, also he's bringing up the question because it might bring more opportunities when the space is limited. And like you say, futsal is a sport of limited space, limited time. And if you watch football nowadays, more and more teams are really compact, especially in the middle sector of the pitch.
That's why the interest of football coaches in futsal has developed a lot. Before, futsal has been considered the cemetery of all players, or the place where bad players or physically not good players for football go to play. Lately has been seen a little bit with different eyes, like a tool for football to develop this. And in this matter, how long time I have?
We have 15 to 20 minutes still, so you have time.
I would like to show something about what has been done in Italy in the last 3 years, and in some other countries like Brazil, like Japan, especially Japan and Italy. I have lived this with my personal experience, the relationship between futsal and football, and how professional football clubs are working in futsal.
Okay, please carry on.
I finished briefly this about the parallel. Here you can see David Silva approaching the ball, suddenly change direction, gain advantage, ball in center, and goal. There are the movement of these players in futsal can be in front of the opponent or behind the opponent. This depends on the situation, but in any case, the target is to gain advantage on the opponent, and depends on the different style of movement of the opponent. Here we can see Sergio Gargelli in a situation of counter-attack, how he moves in front of the opponent to attack the parallel and then going to finalize. Good saving of goalkeeper. Movement behind the opponent, Miguelin, in this case, pass behind the opponent. Here the opponent has to lose one reference, or the ball, or the direct opponent, and then he change direction and go to exploit the parallel pass. Here the same, running behind the opponent. We can see this play of Manchester City, like he make the movement, feint for going to exploit the Mahrez, passing behind the opponent for going to exploit the parallel. Here another situation of Messi, how he passed behind the opponent and then go to take the parallel pass and finishing to second post, like exactly in futsal. How he goes behind the opponent now lose the reference, he attack the space and finish to second post. We can talk for hours and hours about this. The parallel pass can be, the pass usually in futsal is elevated, can be elevated or ground floor. In this case is ground floor. Can be a little bit loop because there is no space and the ball has to pass a little bit higher, like in this case. And then of course there can be continuation. Here you can see the parallel with the heel pass, combination in Finnish Futsal League. In this case the pass with the heel is elevated, is in elevation, is loop, good futsal technique. In football also we have the heel parallel. Here you can see how this player go in parallel and there is heel pass for finishing in parallel. But I would like to go over, because there are many other more combinations, but because of few time I would like to show something that is what I would like to bring is some cases in Italy has been developed a project that was called Futsal in Soccer, where the federation to develop some skills of football asked the collaboration of futsal, and this project was only for professional academies, so clubs in Serie A, Serie B and Serie C, first, second and third division. and the clubs took part to the idea is to bring this club in the competition, futsal competition, and also having futsal coaches in their academies. Juventus started the project in 2020, in the end of 2019. They signed Alessio Musti, that was the former coach of national team of Italy. Now they have 2 coaches doing this one. And you can see from the age group, from under 7 to under 23, all they do 1 hour, training every week of futsal. In the Juventus Sports Center of Vinovo has been built 8 futsal court to develop this. And during the futsal training, both in the grass or indoor, in the artificial grass or indoor, are used futsal balls. And in the under 23, the target is only related to the situation of the duels, means 1v1 defensive and offensive. You can see Juventus in the different group of age. They take part to different futsal competition, but they play a medium of 15 matches every year, so the kids play the double activities. And in Italy there is this important element that is the under 13 elite futsal league, that is a league played during spring period. They had some problem during COVID. This league is started in 2017, if I don't mistake. And I helped the federation to this project. I helped Musti and Paniccia before, when Musti worked for the federation, to create this project, because I came from the experience in Japan. And this elite futsal league is the short league of less than 3 months, as a regional phase and a national phase. And to this league can take part only professional football clubs or futsal club of first and second division. And this is very good tournament that allow clubs to play futsal and develop futsal things, for futsal skills for football. Last season the champion was Bologna Football of this league. And on the right side of the slide you can see the different targets that Juventus have for this project. In the youth, under 7 to under 10, there is individual technique related to the use of the soul in the dribbling, in the 1v1 and in the directional control, and the shoot with the 2 in the finishing. From under 11, work more on individual tactic like the feint, the mobility of the ball, and how to solve the duels, both defensive and offensive. And from the under 13, a big pushing on duels. All the rondos that before they were played in numerical superiority, 3v1, 5v2, 6v3, this kind of rondo now are being replaced with 90% of rondo are in numerical equality. The other element developed from under 13 is the combination between 2 and 3 players and the collaboration in the zone of finishing. So how to dismark and how to arrive in the zone of finishing. This is the project of Juventus. Another case is the Inter Milan. The project started in 2016, and they also have once training per week, and the duration is 50 minutes. They do futsal until under 14, and the difference you can see with Juventus that is during the futsal hours, they are using for the 80% of time the football ball. They develop 3 macro areas fundamentally. That the 3 macro areas are, one is the relationship between foot and ball in the using specific technique of futsal, like the use of the soul and the shoot with 2. The other one is improving the technical speed of the game related to 2 situations. One is the speed of the technical gesture, and the other one is the speed of circulation of the ball. And the third point is being able to play, to be effective in small spaces, both as a single players, both in a small group of tactic, like combined 2 and 3 and 4 players. This is the project of Inter. So My question is, why not in Finland? Why not in Finland? Because in Finland, winter, from my point of view, is a friend to develop these things, because give the possibility to play indoor and to develop all these micro aspects of futsal related to football. And on this slide, you can see on the left there is a picture of a tournament that will be in February 2023, and is a trend of a lot of important football clubs, European football clubs like Juventus, Manchester City, Ajax, Porto, you can see here, Marseille, Monaco, that they will take part to this futsal under 12 competition. And in Europe there are a lot of this futsal competition for this age group 10 to 14. So to me, one solution for futsal and football in Finland to develop players is working on this micro situation that can help to develop everything. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sergio. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
It's a long way. It's a long time to talk on your own, but you have really many good points there.
Yeah, I have tried to be fast to talk about all what I wanted to talk, and I think to open a little bit discussion with football coaches to give a different way to integrate the normal football training with some activities to develop some aspect that in futsal we cure more in details than in football.
You are the leader of the men's national team. I see that little fire inside you to make also maybe bigger changes also in Finnish football, Finnish youth futsal. Obviously, that it's a difficult task to do, but do you have some visions that, listen, I'll visit clubs and tell them maybe you can try this, or is it only your main focus with the Finnish men team?
Actually, I am in these 7 months. I try to visit and especially observing to understand how is Finland, how the clubs work, what they need, and how I can help as a national team coach, and what Finnish futsal need from a tactical point of view. So my point of view is that the next step, Finland needs to work on players individually to stay more comfortable with the ball. To me, because to me Finnish players have quality, have quality to be comfortable in attack also. And the other thing for me, to futsal to make a step, need more collaboration with football. Because in Finland is not like in Japan where there were 120 million people, or like I have been in China, they have 1 billion. More than 1 million, but very few play football and futsal. Here there are not so many people, and we need to use at best all the kids that play with the ball, with the feet.
Yeah, but I think the positive side, if you think futsal, is that of the kids who are living in Finland, who are doing sport, any sport, many of them are playing football. So there is still many possible good futsal players now who are now playing football.
To me, yes. That's why, to me, if football and futsal can collaborate more, is a beneficial and reciprocity help for each other.
But I think we can also say that there are some types of players that you can say that is a really nice profile for football, but then there are also youth players or grown-up who can say, listen, that person fits better to futsal. And maybe to help find those players, to find futsal would be also one key.
To me, the selection is natural.
Okay.
Is natural. First, depends on the desire of the kids. Because to me, it's not right to tell to the kids you have to go here or there. The kids have to go where they enjoy more, and when they have more passion. And the second one is a natural project and the natural development of players, that when you see that naturally you cannot arrive to the top in a certain sports, and maybe you can arrive at the top in another one, you have possibility and you can decide to go in a street or in another. Important for me in this 10, 14 years old age, we have to give all the tools for the players to be effective as individual in a one or in another way.
One last question. You're saying that football could benefit from futsal, but I'd like to believe it's also a two-way traffic, that futsal could also take something, good things from football.
Yes, to me, yes, because in football there are more money, more expert, more quality in training, more organization, more professionalism. So from this point of view, futsal need to learn from football, because if one day want to reach more professional side, they have to look at where professional side is. And to me, the collaboration, the integration between these two sports is the key. In many countries, Benfica, Sporting, Lisbona, Barcelona, that they are multi sports, like here, for example, Ilves. To have a futsal side inside the football club could be beneficial in the formation, and then like to use the kids that you have grown up in youth to continue in one way or in another. This is to me what can be in Finland a process that can be done.
Okay. Thank you, Sergio Gargelli.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation.